Haidito plays a game which looks like a cheap copy of the Call of Duty zombie mode. His teammates tell him to shoot, which makes him recall how a friend of his used to call him by the name Shoot when they used to play soccer. Haidito gets lost in the flashback and fails to kill the enemy, but when his teammates start roasting him, he blames them for the loss. He recalls how he blamed his soccer teammates when he failed to shoot the ball into the net, and gets frustrated, so he hits the table. The next day, he goes to his school where he sees a soccer match being played and that his school's team is losing miserably. On the field, one of the players named Kazama passes the ball instead of shooting it at the goal, which makes the spectators angry. Haidito overhears them and laughs about how everyone treats them like objects. He thinks about how the soccer players are losers just like him, and just then, the match ends as the Kurikawa High School team loses and Kazama sees Haidito laughing. Afterwards, Kazama pins Haidito against the wall like it's a romantic drama and lashes out on Haidito for laughing at them. Kazama yells out how they tried their best, and Haidito says that he and Kurikawa had good moves. Kurikawa asks him if he knows a lot about soccer, and Haidito replies that he doesn't care about soccer. Kazama continues to take out his anger on Haidito, and Kurikawa tries to calm him down. Haidito tells him not to get too upset as it's just soccer, and this sentence pisses Kazama off even more as he feels like Haidito is looking down on soccer. Haidito says that the only thing that matters in soccer is whether the ball goes into the net or not, and Kazama yells how they train every day to put the ball into the net. He challenges Haidito to shoot the ball into the net himself if he thinks it's so easy, but Haidito tries to walk away. Kazama grabs his arm and starts taunting him to take the challenge, but Haidito yanks his hand in anger, which sends Kazama to the wall. He angrily tells them not to drag him back to soccer again and states that he won't ever play soccer, but almost ends up puking. He tries to leave and Kurikawa apologizes for Kazama's behavior and explains that Kazama just can't handle anyone belittling soccer. Haidito tells him again that he wasn't laughing at soccer and walks away, but Cameya smiles while Haidito walks past him. Sometimes later, Haidito sulks in a park when a soccer ball comes to him and the kids ask him to shoot it at them, but he throws it to them instead of kicking it. The man in black says that he's glad Haidito didn't shout at the kids. He says that either Haidito was injured and can't play again or something hurt him a lot, which he is still stuck on. He says that Haidito needs to let go of the past if he wants to move forward. At night, Haidito's mom notices how his mood is off and tells him to exercise sometimes, which makes him recall how Kazama told him that they practice every day. He also recalls the man in black's words and remembers how he couldn't score any goals after his friend left him, even though he told Haidito that they'll play together forever. He starts crying and decides that he will let go of his past. The next day, he overhears Kazama being told that their match today with a team called Nomada has been cancelled as Nomada refused to have a practice match against a shit team like Kurikawa. Kazama sees Haidito and gets angry again, like he gets paid to lash out, so Haidito suggests that Kazama could still play in a private club. Kazama gets angry and says that Kurikawa used to be one of the best teams in the country, and even won a championship 2 years after they were formed thanks to famous players like Tanaka, Cameya, Kazuhiro and Kenji. He says that he has always looked up to the Kurikawa soccer team, so this team is special for him. Haidito agrees to the challenge from yesterday and says that they will hold a penalty shootout as only scoring matters. Meanwhile, Cameya looks at their old photo and hears the penalty shootout about to begin outside. He sees Haidito taking the first shot and recalls how he was offered to be Kurikawa's coach just a little while ago. The first ball doesn't go in, but Haidito thinks about his friend before taking the second shot, which makes him suddenly get better at shooting and he scores. Cameya and Kazama are both shocked and Haidito shoots again, which makes Cameya recall how he was being persuaded to be the coach and how he used to play. Haidito sinks the ball again and again while Kazama is unable to predict even a single one, so the penalty shootout ends in Haidito's victory. All the players compliment Haidito's shooting and ask him to join them, but he tries to walk away. Cameya asks him if he wants to play soccer again, but Haidito says no, so Cameya tells him to leave. He reveals to everyone that he is their coach now, but since he sees their group as losers, he will quit, and their team will be shut down. Haidito is about to leave when Cameya comments that someone who gives up is worthless, which offends Haidito, so he replies that Cameya doesn't know anything about him. Just then, the Nomada team arrives and Haidito's old friend named Kuhei is also in that team. Kuhei excitedly hugs him while Haidito thinks about how Kuhei is the person he wants to see the least in the whole world. Kuhei says that he's glad that Haidito is still playing soccer and that he misses him a lot. The Kurikawa team is shocked to see the famous genius player, Kuhei, who got an offer to play youth soccer in England. They're surprised that he came back to Japan, but Haidito doesn't look pleased. Kuhei brags to everyone about how Haidito is a genius when it comes to shooting and assumes that Haidito came to Kurikawa to help rebuild their team. Haidito tries to tell Kuhei that he quit soccer already, but Nomada's coach starts yapping about how he is shocked Cameya is their coach, and they have a player that impressed Kuhei. He decides to start the game and the Nomada team starts preparing while the Kurikawa team assumes that Haidito will be playing too. He tries to tell them that he isn't going to play and they talk about how he's a genius, but Cameya says that he is just a loser that hates soccer. They notice that Kuhei is on the bench and Cameya says that they don't need Kuhei to beat them. Kazama asks Haidito to just score some goals and Kuhei tells Haidito not to hold back. Haidito thinks to himself how it's Kuhei's fault that he doesn't play soccer anymore, and he recalls Cameya's words about moving forward. He decides to play but tells everyone that he will play only one time, so the match begins and Kazama passes the ball to Haidito, who hesitates at the last moment after recalling how he couldn't score in the past. He passes the ball to Kurikawa, who gives it to Kazama to shoot, but the goalkeeper catches the ball. Kuhei is disappointed that Haidito didn't shoot and his coach scolds him for supporting the other team's player. In the next play, Kazama passes the ball to Haidito, who shoots it, but it's a very unimpressive shot, so the keeper easily catches it. He starts having a mental breakdown seeing that the past is repeating, and Kuhei tells his coach that it was just a mistake, but the next one will definitely go in. It's hard to tell which team he is on at this time, but Haidito does a bad shot again. He tries again and again, but not a single shot goes in, and Kurikawa notices that something is off about the game as they seem to have the advantage but haven't scored once. He says that they're being forced to attack in the same pattern each time, and Haidito points out that not a single one of their opponents is sweating. Kazama the genius finally realizes that they're being played around with, and Nomada signals them to go all out now. They quickly gain control of the game and score a goal one after another until they're above 6 goals. Haidito thinks about how Nomada still isn't done because they have Kuhei on the bench, who is better than everyone else playing. One of the seniors named Sahara laughs about how their opponent is very good, and Kazama gets angry at how they are so relaxed while losing in front of the legendary Cameya. He says that Cameya was one of the first members who built their team along with Kubo, the first captain. Kazama tells everyone that Kubo was the one who did the legendary 11-man dodge and gave the Kurikawa soccer team a soul. Cameya says that it's the reason why they all can't win because everything that Kazama said happened years ago. Cameya says that he doesn't care about the glorious past or the legendary players as it's all in the past. He says that victory is in the opponent's goal, not in the past, so they should only focus on the goal. The game is about to resume and Cameya tells Haidito that he's only looking at his feet, which is wrong, so he should try to keep an eye on the whole pitch. The match resumes again and Haidito tries to follow Cameya's words, but he starts feeling like it's similar to the game he plays. He directs everyone on what to do and they manage to reach the goal. Kazama shoots the ball to the corner of the goal, but the goalkeeper manages to catch it again. Nomada's coach acknowledges that Haidito made the right calls and he continues to control the flow of the game with his calls. Nomada's coach notices that the Kurikawa team has started to get aggressive after Haidito took control, and Haidito takes another shot with full aggression, but it ends up hitting the post. Nomada's coach decides that they need to shut Haidito down, so he subs in Kuhei, who is just glad that he gets to play with Haidito again. The play resumes and Sahara gets the ball, but it gets stolen from him by Kuhei, who gets all gay about playing soccer with Haidito, but Kazama interrupts the special moment. Kuhei gets angry and makes a long shot which goes into the net. He keeps on acting sus while talking to Haidito mid-game, and Haidito gets exhausted, so he asks Kuhei to stay away from him. Kuhei asks him why, and Haidito tells him that he never wants to see him again. Kuhei says that he wanted to play soccer with him again, and he starts moving towards the goal again. Haidito recalls how he used to be the core of their team, but Kuhei left because of his father's job, after which he couldn't score again, so he left soccer and closed off from the world. He thinks about how he can't catch up to Kuhei now, and Kuhei tries to motivate him to play with him again while dribbling past everyone. He does an 11-man dodge and starts crying before leaving the field. The game ends at that time as the whole Nomada team leaves, and Kazama is frustrated that all the seniors are still so relaxed. Cameya tells him to get better if he is so frustrated and announces that they'll start practicing at 5:30 in the morning from tomorrow onwards. He tells them to come only if they love soccer and want to move forward before walking off like he's Batman. The next day, Haidito wakes up early and his mom gives him a pair of new soccer shoes before telling him that it's a birthday gift from his dad Minato because they assumed that Haidito is playing soccer again. She tells him that just because he made a decision in the past once, it doesn't mean he always has to stay stuck on it. Haidito goes to the field where the soccer team practices and he hands back the shirt he borrowed for the match. Cameya also arrives and starts announcing the new starters based on their match with Nomada. He announces the usual team, but the attacker is chosen to be Haidito instead of Sahara. Haidito says that he isn't joining the team, and Cameya replies that he won't give anyone else the position, so they'll only play with 10 players if Haidito doesn't play. The captain Sonoda objects to it, but Cameya tells them that the Kurikawa team will be closed down if they don't win a game in a month. Kazama questions why Haidito was selected even though he isn't on the team, and all the players start criticizing Haidito, but Cameya repeats that they'll play with 10 players if Haidito doesn't join. He reluctantly agrees to play, and Cameya tells everyone that they have a match in 2 weeks but aren't allowed to kick a ball until then. He makes them run for practice, and Haidito has a hard time keeping up. He finishes long after everyone, and Kazama refuses to accept him as a starter for holding back against a friend. Haidito gets angry and grabs him, but Cameya tells them to come to the office. He has them all make curry while balancing on top a thin pole, and says that he would like a teammate from real leaves afterwards. So like the perfect minions, the whole team goes to pick leaves directly from the fields, and Haidito overhears some players talking about how Haidito can't play better than Sahara. They also talk about how Haidito was ordering them around during the game and Sonoda was getting ignored while he couldn't even shoot a single goal. He walks away after getting hurt. Kazama also overhears the players talking about Haidito, so he realizes why Haidito looked so down. The day ends after the players eat the curry made by Haidito, Kazama, and Kurikawa before. Kazama gets angry once again for the 100th time over the players' relaxed behavior, and Kurikawa notices that Haidito is doing good work while others can't see him. Kazama says that they can't leave everything to him, so they start cleaning everything up. They even find an ancient sock that Haidito has to clean up, and Kazama tells Haidito to go with him after they finish cleaning up. Kazama gives Haidito a popsicle for helping him clean up, and Kurikawa points out that Kazama is trying to be friends with Haidito. Kazama asks Haidito why he wasn't playing against Kuhei, and Haidito says that he was trying his best to score but they weren't going in. Kazama isn't satisfied with the answer and they start bickering again, so Haidito runs away. Sometimes later, Cameya tells everyone that they'll have practice games from now on, so they are allowed to kick the ball, and Sonoda asks him about the starters, but Cameya says that they're still the same. He objects to Haidito's appointment as a starter, while Sahara convinces Haidito to quit because he isn't even interested in soccer, and Sonoda suggests that they should have a match to decide if Haidito is better than Sahara or not. Cameya agrees to it, so they prepare for the match with all the seniors in one team. Namioka, the team manager, tells Haidito that he looks like he wants to play soccer again. The match begins and Kurikawa steals the ball and passes to Tsuji, who shoots it, but the ball gets caught. Haidito starts having a mental breakdown again as he is sick of losing, and Sahara scores a goal on them. Kazama tells him to stop holding back, and he questions what he really wants while thinking about how Kuhei has left him behind. He starts running after the ball like crazy and tries to steal the ball but gets accidentally kicked in the stomach. They try to send him off, but he insists on continuing, so the match resumes and he runs like crazy again. He manages to steal the ball but falls, however Kazama manages to save it and scores a goal. The game reaches a standoff as both teams try their best, however the opponent's goalkeeper, Amagai, starts breaking down after seeing how hard Haidito is trying. He tells Sahara that he isn't better than Haidito as he doesn't even show up for practice, and he lets the ball roll past him. The match ends and the seniors quit out of frustration while Kazama tries to stop them. He cools off his head under the tap when Haidito apologizes to him, and he says that he won't ever forgive the seniors for leaving the team when it's already at the risk of being shut down. He tells Haidito not to look so bored while playing and that they'll win together. Cameya tells the school advisor that there are only 10 members remaining in the team now, and he replies that only 2 schools accepted their request for a practice match out of the dozen others because the tournament is coming soon. Cameya comments that the other schools are hesitant to play with them because they are a pathetic team and that their team will have to win the practice matches, otherwise the club will be shut down. Later he tells the team about the 2 upcoming practice matches and tells them to win the matches with just 9 on-field players, otherwise their pathetic club will be shut down. The players all start whining about being at a disadvantage, and Cameya instructs them to suck it up. He tells them that he has also delegated some tasks to them on top of their usual training which they have to do before their match, which is 2 days later, and he then leaves. The players afterwards discuss how both their opponent teams are pro-national teams, and as always Kazama starts having anger issues about the whole situation because he is an attention seeker. They all argue whether they can really win even a single match against a pro team with 9 players, and Kurikawa tells the team to focus on their training regiments which Cameya has designed specifically for each player. Kazama tells the team that Cameya has been watching them very closely, on the basis of which he made special regiments for each one of them, and he believes that they can truly win the matches. Cameya suddenly pops up out of nowhere and tells the team that they should consider themselves married to the ball from now on. He explains that they should keep the ball with themselves at all times, so the players follow his instructions, and later Haidito even gets scolded by his mom for playing with the ball around his house. He explains himself that he is practicing for the upcoming matches, while he wonders to himself whether they can really win any match. The next day, Amigai approaches the senior players Sonoda and Sahara and begs them to come back to the team like a little wuss, but they just ignore him while Cameya observes all of this drama from a distance. Kazama does his practice according to Cameya's instructions, which includes sprinting, some core exercises and side steps, while Kurikawa does some core exercises and side steps. Haidito does some muscle training along with some shooting practice, and as everyone carries out their practice, Sonoda and Sahara wonder whether the team will really play with 9 players only. The team then practices defending as well as shooting, in which Kazama and Haidito practice shooting the ball. They even get into an argument about their poor coordination, while Cameya notices that the senior players are still watching them from a side. He sends Sonoda and Sahara practice regimens of their own, but they decide to ignore it. Later on, Amigai requests the other senior players to come back to the team, and he realizes that most of them have already moved on with their life since they only want to have fun now. The next day, the team gathers for their first practice match against Kurikawa North, in which the opponent's ace is out due to injury, and Cameya tells Amigai to be the captain. He advises him to ignore the senior players who have moved on and tells him to focus on his team. The match begins, and as the offense rushes towards the goal, Kazama and Haidito pass the ball between themselves till Haidito gets a chance to score a goal. After the match, the team rants about how they lost the match with 7-0 goals, and Haidito comments that they could not have possibly won with 9 players. Of course, Kazama gets triggered as always, and he begins arguing with Haidito, which seems to be his favorite sport. He tells him that it was his fault he couldn't score any goals and couldn't make proper demands from the team. The team keeps arguing, and afterwards Kazama goes to Sonoda and Sahara, where he begs them on his knees to return to the team for the next match. Even Haidito tries to tell them that he will leave the team for their sake, but they don't listen to anyone and refuse each one of their requests. Haidito then asks Kazama why he would go to such a length, and for the 1000th time they both start arguing with one another. He tells him that he can still play anywhere else with his talent, and Kazama accuses him of not giving his best. Haidito argues with him that he doesn't want the club to be disbanded, so Kazama takes him to the locker room where he shows him the pictures of their qualified matches. He reveals that his dad was the captain when it was the last time their team stopped qualifying for tournaments, and that he wants Kurikawa to succeed again to take the blame off of his dad. Haidito assures him that they will the next match at any cost. Meanwhile, Cameya gets told that their next opponent, named Fujita East, has refused to play with the team because they got an offer to play with another team. Kazama begins crying like a little girl when he hears this, so Cameya decides to pull some strings. He first gets in touch with Sonoda and Sahara and tells them to let go of their pride for the sake of their juniors. He even dribbles the ball with them and gives them advice on how they can make improvements in their play style. The next day, he calls all of the players who think that the club is being disbanded and tells them that he has arranged another team to play with them. He then introduces them to the Kurikawa Weed team, which is led by an ex-national player named Hiramatsu. They talk about how Hiramatsu was a genius technical player and the brains of Kurikawa during their heyday. Hiramatsu mentions how they only have 9 players at the moment, but they will still play against 11 players. Kazama is frustrated that they'll have to play against 11 players, and Cameya tells them that it means Hiramatsu wants to crush them. He says that it's their last chance, so they'll have to win if they don't want to be shut down. He tells them that their opponents are better than them in everything, so they'll have to go past their limits if they want to win. Hiramatsu tells his team not to take the Kurikawa team lightly, as they are being coached by Cameya right now, and both the coaches tell their teams to run to the goal as much as they can. The match begins, and the Kurikawa Weeds players apply as much pressure as possible. Kazama tries to do a one-man play, but he gets shouldered to the ground, and Haidito tells him not to be so reckless, but Kurikawa supports his play because the other team is so strong. Haidito gets the ball in the next play and tries to push through while watching the whole field like it's a game. He manages to break through the double team and passes to Kazama, who takes a shot which almost goes into the goal, but the goalie manages to defend it. Hiramatsu sends a hand signal to his players and they start triple teaming Haidito, but a water break is called soon. Kazama gets upset that he didn't pass the ball to him, so Haidito explains that they were waiting to intercept the ball from reaching Kazama. Amigai agrees with Haidito's decision and tells Kazama that he isn't watching the whole field properly, but Kazama gets angry. Sonoda and Sahara watch them fight while the other team also talks about how they've been bickering since the start. Hiramatsu tells his team that the Cakegawa isn't functioning at its full potential right now, and he doesn't know if they'll ever be able to bring out all their potential. The match resumes and Kazama tries to steal the ball, but the opponent juggle the ball between the players using fast-paced passes and they manage to score. The next play begins and the opponents steal the ball while the Cakegawa team has a hard time stopping the fast passes. Sonoda and Sahara yell that they should focus on the surroundings, how there is always someone waiting for the pass so they should block that person. Haidito notices it and directs Kazama and Kurikawa on who to block, which helps them block the other team. The halftime whistle blows and Cameya tells them that the fast passes are called flash passes, which was a tactic invented by Hiramatsu when he was a player. Amagai asks him how they can stop those passes and Cameya tells them that they have already been given the solution. All the players look at Sonoda and Sahara standing behind the fence and Haidito asks them to help. Cameya asks them if they will make their juniors beg again and all the juniors request them to help. Sonoda and Sahara join them and with all 11 players gathered again, they get back into the game. Not everything goes as planned and the opponents change their tactic, which prevents Kazama from stealing the ball. He falls down in pain and the ball goes past Sonoda and Sahara to another player who does a trick shot before scoring. The Cakegawa team is behind now by 2 goals and Kazama refuses to step out of the field even after getting injured. They use a man-to-man tactic to shut down their opponents, but Hiramatsu thinks that the previous 9 players must be tired by now. Contrary to his expectations, the Cakegawa players have exceptional stamina thanks to the running that Cameya made them do. Kazama gets the ball instead of shooting. He passes it to Haidito, who does an amazing shot to put the ball into the net. Only 3 minutes are left for the Cakegawa team to catch up, so all the players go crazy. Haidito takes a shot in the last minute, but it goes into the air after hitting the post, but he and Kazama send it past the goalie by heading the ball over him. They fall in front of the ball and head it into the goal, but the whistle blows, which ends the game at a draw. Kazama falls down in despair because he's the only person actually trying to win in the whole anime, and Hiramatsu compliments their spirit but says that they would have won if they were more united. Cameya agrees with his remarks and tells the boys to clean up because they need to come to practice tomorrow. He tells them that they're not gonna get shut down because they didn't lose, and all the boys get happy that they didn't lose against such a strong team. Cameya brings the low lives back to their place by revealing that it was Hiramatsu's reserve team, but they're no longer losers and they should aim bigger now. Cameya and Hiramatsu have an alone talk in the club room where Hiramatsu explains how he's looking for talents that can reach the world stage, and Cameya seems to have found them in Cakegawa. He says that he is looking forward to seeing how far Haidito, Kazama and Kurikawa can go. A few days later, Haidito is walking past the bus stand when he sees a kid's foot about to get caught in the bus door. A football comes out of nowhere and gets between the gap, which stops the door from closing on the kid's foot, but the poor kid still gets separated from his brother. Haidito looks back to see who shot the ball and sees a blue-eyed tan person who looks like he's also gonna act gay just like Kuhei. He goes to school and tells the boys about it, and the teacher announces that an exchange student from Italy is joining them. It turns out to be the guy from before who introduces himself as Andrea, but his yapping skills shocks everyone into speechlessness. Meanwhile, Cameya gets told that they have an exchange student who wants to join the soccer team, and he gets shocked when he sees a picture of Andrea. Haidito is joined at lunch by the ultimate yapper who asks him what position he plays in, and Kazama starts talking about how Haidito told them that he's very good. He says that he's not too bad at soccer with an evil smile, and during warm-up he acts just like Kuhei, a true burden on the eyes. They notice how his legs are so bruised up and he starts admiring how pretty Haidito's legs are. Cameya arrives and Andrea requests to join the team, but Cameya calls him AA. Andrea says that he thought Cameya would have forgotten about him and reveals that Cameya taught him while he was in Italy. He announces that Andrea won't be playing in the practice match, so they start without him, and Haidito shoots but fails to score. Andrea blames his teammates for lagging behind him, which leads to a failed attempt, and he tells them that they need to keep up with Haidito. One of the players gets injured, so Cameya subs Andrea in, who does a one-man play with aggression. Sonoda tells him to stop playing alone and to pass the ball, so he finally stops being crazy and passes the ball. Kurikawa intercepts it. Andrea chases after him and shoulders him away from the ball, so Kazama tries to stop him, but he easily steps out of his way, which makes him fall. He gets up again to steal the ball, but Andrea shakes him off and shoots directly into the net. Kazama gets annoyed at how Andrea is being so playful, and in the next play, Andrea does a foul by stepping on Kazama's foot, which angers him even more. Cameya tells Andrea to stop being so aggressive, and Andrea talks back that Cameya is saying it because they're in Japan. The game resumes, but Andrea still doesn't hold back and continues the rough play, so Haidito and Kazama double team him, but he drops them both like a WWE match. Cameya recalls someone getting hurt the same way before and the match ends, but Kazama gets angry at how Andrea plays. Haidito reminds him that they both hit him in the last play, but he appreciated them instead, so he doesn't seem like he is trying to fight. Sonoda points out that even Cameya isn't stopping him, and one thought leads to another, which makes them question if Andrea has some dirt on Cameya. Haidito mentions how Cameya retired after scoring an own goal in the Champions League final, so maybe it was match fixing. Kazama continues to defend Cameya while the others come up with more wild thoughts about what Andrea could be blackmailing Cameya with. Outside, Andrea plays around with the ball, and the next day, Kazama comes back with even more theories, like how Andrea came to destroy their team because he is Cameya's kid but hates him, that's why he wants to take revenge. Haidito points out how it would bring no shame to Cameya's name even if Andrea beats them all, considering how they were already trash before Cameya came. Andrea enters the class, all excited about playing more soccer with them, but he continues to thrash them around. A week passes by for the team under Andrea's beating, and Sonoda and Sahara discuss how the juniors have started to play violently too. Kazama decides to confront Andrea about it, so he goes outside where Andrea is playing around with the ball. They go outside only to see that Cameya is already talking to him. Cameya asks Andrea if he wants to say something to him, so Andrea replies that he has always wanted to say a lot of things to Cameya, but they weren't things he could say peacefully. They start playing a one-on-one match, and Andrea recalls how Cameya taught him and his brother Sergio how to play more violently. They asked him to stay in Italy, and he told them that he wanted to teach the kids in Japan how to play soccer on the world level. He says that Japan's soccer team is missing something very big right now, which is their obsession with taking the ball. They recall how Sergio got injured for life because of that same obsession that Cameya had taught them, and out of frustration, Cameya scored an own goal during the final. Andrea reveals that they had to move after that accident because of his dad's job, but he was angry at Cameya at that time, that's why he didn't talk to him before leaving. He says that he and his brother regretted it a lot and learned that Cameya had gone back to Japan after some time. Cameya says that he looked for them a lot too but couldn't find them, and Andrea says that he wanted to apologize to him face to face because it wasn't his fault that Sergio got injured. He starts crying and leans on him before telling him that Sergio is studying hard to become an athlete trainer so he can recover from career-ending injuries. He says that they have all moved on, so Cameya needs to move forward too towards his team, and he passes to the boys. They start playing around for no reason, and Cameya steals the ball from them while teaching them to be obsessed with the ball. Andrea passes the ball to Haidito, who does an amazing shot which makes Kazama question why he can't shoot like that normally. Andrea tells Kazama and Kurikawa they should step up their game if they want Haidito to score, which confuses them all, but he tells them to figure it out themselves. He reveals that they'll be opponents one day as he has been chosen to represent Italy at the junior level, but he wanted to meet Cameya once, that's why he came to Kurikawa High School. He tells them that he's looking forward to meeting them at the world level as they have the best coach, so it's not impossible for them. Cameya calls Namioka to inform him that the team will have a training camp soon, and he then asks him whether he had heard of the old tradition. Afterwards, Namioka tells the team the training camp will be held for 3 days at the school gym, and they all discuss how they are gonna jump in the tournament soon without ever winning a match. The first day of the training camp begins, in which they all practice as usual, and the offensive players keep struggling to coordinate together properly to score a goal. Cameya tells Kazama to relax, and he reminds him that it takes the whole team to make one score. Kazama doesn't understand this logic due to his limited brain capacity, and they all then continue practicing till late at night. After their practice, Cameya tells Namioka to handle the team while he leaves to prepare for the infamous school tradition. Kazama then whines in the shower about missing something important, and he wonders why the team cannot even score a goal properly. Afterwards, Namioka tries to tell the team members a scary story, but only Kurikawa gets scared. He finishes his story and they all head to sleep since they have an early morning the next day. Kazama keeps sleep talking about throwing passes to Haidito, and when he wakes up, he realizes that Haidito is not in his bed. He then goes out to search for him and discovers him shooting balls at the goal. They both apologize to each other for not acting properly during the practice, but as usual they then start arguing about how Haidito appeared in Kazama's dreams, which is creepy. Kazama asks him his reason to quit soccer, so he reveals that he stopped playing soccer because he couldn't score goals anymore. Kazama argues with him that he managed to score when he missed his shot, but Haidito tells him that it was just a lucky shot. Suddenly Kurikawa comes across a ghost, so he runs to the gym and makes a ruckus which wakes everyone up. The ghost appears inside the gymnasium, so the players start panicking around in the dark and they even run into one another. Kazama also rushes inside and somehow another player gets him stuck in the basketball rim. He then gets stuck inside the rim as it gets raised in the air, and the others start thinking that Kazama is floating in the air, which makes them freak out even more. Suddenly Kazama slips and falls down on the ghost while another player hits the fire alarm button accidentally. The alarms start blaring in the gym and the guard rushes inside to see what's going on. He opens up the lights and they all discover that it was actually Cameya who was under the ghost costume. The guard yells at all of them for causing such a ruckus, so they apologize to him. When he leaves, all the guys laugh at Cameya and he tells them it's an old soccer club tradition to test the courage of players. Everyone makes fun of his lame ghost costume and they notice a lot of bandages on Cameya's hands, which makes them realize that he actually sewed the costume by himself, which makes them laugh even more. The next day, the second day of the training camp resumes, and as usual Kurikawa, Kazama and Haidito practice their offensive moves. At lunchtime they all gobble down food and Cameya comments how he used to eat the same meal since it's famous among broke school students. He even makes a comment about a college girl working there, which makes the boys tease him endlessly. They keep roasting him, so he tells them to do 100 more sprints. The practice resumes and Namioka asks Cameya whether it's the right move to not have a practice match before the actual tournament. Cameya tells him that he is deliberately not holding a practice match because he wants the team to have their first actual match in which they are hungry for a victory, and that he is betting that this hunger will make them put extra effort and win the match. Later at night, the guys take a bath and Sonoda and Sahara sneak out to the swimming pool to swim in the open. The others join them soon enough, and even Kazama forces Kurikawa and Haidito jump in the pool too. Cameya notices that the guys are not sleeping, and so he searches for them and comes across them in the swimming pool. They make him jump in the pool too, and soon Cameya starts having fun with the boys. He later comments that he used to have similar fun back in his high school days, so the boys tease him and ask him whether he had a girlfriend. The others discuss how Cameya played at the world level, so he must have a girlfriend now, but when they ask him, he just avoids the topic. He even swims underwater, and soon the school guard discovers them, which put their little adventure to a stop. He then yells at all of them for messing around and scolds Cameya for not setting a better example for the kids. The next day, Cameya thinks about how the team has to come closer in order to better play soccer. He then asks the team members to play the game with them, and soon he passes by Haidito, Kazama, and even Kurikawa. He tells each one of them what they need to work on, and soon he passes by the midfielders and then the defenders. At the end, he advises Amagai to stop waiting for the player to shoot at him, and just then Haidito steals the ball away from him. They all coordinate together to kick the ball towards the goals, but at the end Cameya steals the ball from Haidito and makes a long shot towards the goal. Afterwards, he gives each team member their jersey and hands jersey number 10 to Haidito. He then tells them all to win the next match. The National High School Soccer Championship begins, and the Kakegawa team greets their first opponent when Haidito notices someone looking at them. Cameya tells the boys to relax a bit because they're all tensed up and reminds them of how they've reached this point without a single win, which will change today. The team huddles and gets fired up to win the match, but a suspicious gaze is still looking at them. The match begins and Kuhei also watches them as the other team immediately steals the ball from Kurikawa before scoring. The next play begins and they four-man Kurikawa this to steal the ball from him, but Kazama gets the ball back. However, none of the players approach Kurikawa this time. They mark everyone except him, so he has no one to pass to, and they steal from him again before shooting at the goal, but Amagai manages to defend it. They four-man another player on the team, and Haidito is confused over how the other team is playing, but he notices that their formation has changed. They try to score again, but Amagai is here to save the day. Cameya reveals that he watched the videos of their opponents' previous matches, and they use different offenses in each match. Haidito notices that the formation has changed again, and he wonders who's ordering them around, so he tries to figure it out but realizes that they're all waiting for orders. They have another close call as Amagai continues to save them all alone. All the players wonder how they're changing their tactics every single second, so Haidito continues trying to figure out who is ordering them. Kuhei starts walking away after seeing the Kakegawa team having such a hard time. During halftime, Cameya reminds everyone of Hiramatsu's words about unity, so they all get motivated again. Cameya tells them to find the guy giving the orders, and Haidito notices that one guy has been hiding from their sight, so he decides to lure him out. He starts giving out fast commands to everyone too before the other guy can give orders, which breaks down the other team's balance. He takes all the players down one by one, and the puppet master finally reveals himself out of frustration. Cameya explains that the one who hides so the opponent can't see him while giving command fails when he gets discovered. The puppet master, who is number 6, tries to steal the ball, but they dribble past him and Kurikawa passes the ball to Haidito while matching his timing. He shoots the ball with his left leg instead, as the ball is a little far from him, but it's still an amazing shot. However, it hits the post instead. Kurikawa recalls how Andrea told them to keep up with Haidito, and Sonoda persistently defends against number 6 to stop him, but he shoots past Amagai. However, Sonoda uses his hand to stop the ball from going into the goal. He gets a red card and the opponents get a penalty while number 6 laughs over what just happened. Amagai starts getting emotional and Sonoda gives him the captain's band before telling him not to let things end like this. He leaves the field and Amagai manages to defend the penalty, so the whole team gets fired. They start attacking aggressively and Kurikawa takes a shot, but it hits the post. He manages to take control of the ball again before passing it to Kazama, who heads it to Haidito, who shoots it into the goal. The whistle blows with the score 1, so the game moves toward a penalty shootout, which makes the boys very happy. Kuhei still continues to watch the match while Sahara takes the first penalty and shoots it into the goal. Kurikawa and Kazama also manage to score and Amagai defends a few penalties too, especially the one taken by number 6. This man should definitely get the Man of the Match award, as he is the reason the boat didn't sink. Haidito takes the last shot like he is in the zone and easily puts it into the net. The Kakegawa team gets their first win while number 6 cries over how they lost to a bunch of rowdy monkeys. The boys rejoice and Kuhei leaves the crowd. In the past, a couple of kids bully Kurikawa for getting good grades and roll him around in the mud. They tell him that nobody will forgive him even if he asks for forgiveness, and then leave him in the mud. After some time, he notices that a boy is looking for a lost football, and he even grabs it to give it back to him, but he stops when he recalls the nasty words of his bullies. He starts crying, so he throws the ball instead rather than giving it back to him instead. A small Kazama finds him and thanks him for finding his ball. They shake hands, and after that they start spending every moment together. Kazama even shakes off his bullies, and after some time Kazama asks him to play soccer with him so that they can keep playing forever. Kurikawa then starts playing soccer because he wants to stay by Kazama's side forever. In the present, they both meet up to go to school. Soon Haidito passes by them and tells Kazama to handle a student who keeps pestering him. Just then, a member from the school's newspaper club meets up with Kazama and starts asking him questions and comments about his dual relationship with Haidito, so Kazama starts giving him an interview. Kurikawa thinks about how Haidito has joined their little circle and how he feels weird when Kazama keeps talking about pairing up with Haidito. During lunch, Kurikawa asks Haidito why he refused to give an interview, so Haidito reveals that the guy from the newspaper club named Kishia was from his middle school. He asks Kurikawa about his relation with Kazama, so they both tell him how they met, and how they have had each other's back since elementary school. Haidito suggests that they should give an interview instead as a pair, and Kazama argues that he and Haidito are the actual Kakegawa pair now. He then starts teasing Haidito about their pairing and even asks Kurikawa to take their picture, which makes Kurikawa upset. Afterwards, Cameya asks Kurikawa to aid Haidito in the matches and that they both will pair up for their practice, while Kazama will have a separate practice regimen from now on. This bothers Kurikawa since he wants Kazama to stand out, and as he starts practicing with Haidito, he keeps spacing out and even gets distracted, which disturbs their team play. Kazama then returns back from his practice and Cameya tells Kurikawa to start moving with more speed. Kazama also advises him to support Haidito, so he agrees to give his best for the team. After practice, Kurikawa thinks about how Kazama doesn't need him anymore, so he starts crying like a little wuss. He suddenly has a eureka moment as he realizes that it is actually Haidito's fault that Kazama is drifting away from him. He then approaches Kishia and tells him that he wants to talk to him about something. Later, Kazama and Haidito discuss whether Kurikawa is skipping practice because of Haidito, and just then they come across a bunch of students who are gathered in front of a published news article. The article includes Haidito's story about how he left soccer previously because he was a loser who couldn't score his goals, and how Kakegawa has helped him become the ace. The other students discuss that Haidito must have hated his previous team a lot, due to which he didn't score goals for them, and they gossip about all sorts of things, so Haidito runs away from them. Even the team players discuss the latest article, and Kurikawa tells them that Haidito must have a bigger reason for leaving the team rather than not scoring goals. He even goes as far as to say that Haidito must have looked down on his previous team a lot due to his arrogant nature, and that due to this reason they must have kicked him out of the team. The others find this weird and tell him to not say such stuff again. Meanwhile, Haidito visits Cameya and apologizes to him for not revealing his past to him. Cameya advises him to forget about the past and to believe in his current team. The other players approach Haidito and ask him whether there's anything going on with him and Kurikawa. They tell him that Kurikawa was calling him bossy behind his back and that they don't trust the article so he shouldn't worry about it. Afterwards, at the National Shizuoka tournament, Haidito sees an opening so he asks Kurikawa to pass him the ball, but Kurikawa passes the ball to Kazama instead, who scores a goal. One of the players then yells out aloud that Kakegawa's miracle pair will score next, which makes Haidito feel sick to his stomach. Later, Kazama inquires about his health and takes him to see Kishiya, who tells them that he plans to include Kazama's interview in next week's edition. He then refuses to reveal who gave him all the information on Haidito and rushes off. Haidito and Kazama join Kurikawa, who tells them that he liked the article. He also tells them that he cannot wait for Kazama's article, so this makes them think that Kurikawa was the one who revealed the information to Kishiya. Kazama asks him to tell him the truth, and Kurikawa starts ranting about how Haidito isn't their actual friend since he looks down on them. He yaps that they are all a replacement of Kuhei for Haidito, and that he just wants to protect Kazama from Haidito. Kazama then tells him that they should break up, and Kurikawa argues that it's because he doesn't spend much time with him anymore due to Haidito. Things start to get heated up a lot, so finally Haidito steps in and tells them that he is going to quit the team. A few moments later, he hands over his resignation to Cameya, who asks him if it's because of the article, but he doesn't answer why. Cameya asks him how he felt playing at Kakegawa and tells him that people sometimes face off against those around them when they are serious about something. The next day, Haidito doesn't come to school and Kurikawa tries to chummy up with Kazama again, but it doesn't work. He recalls how Kazama questioned him if he wanted Haidito to quit all along, but he couldn't answer him. Cameya informs Namioka and Amagai about Haidito's resignation, and they wonder if it's because of the article, so Namioka brings up how some of the players heard Kurikawa say some things. Amagai starts panicking about how they won't be able to win in their upcoming match against Fujita East without Haidito, but Cameya tells him to maintain his composure like a proper captain. Haidito practices keep-ups in a random street while recalling how Kurikawa said he was using them. He questions if all the moments they had together were fake, and he fumbles the ball that goes to Nomada's captain, Matsukata. He learns about how Haidito has quit, so he asks him if he quit because of Cameya's strict methods. Haidito replies that he just doesn't want to play anymore, so Matsukata questions why he's still practicing keep-ups if he doesn't want to play anymore. He takes Haidito to their field where he talks about how Haidito's hard work can be seen and how much he has improved since their last match, so why did he quit out of nowhere? Haidito tells him that his teammates told him that he burdens the people assisting him too much. Matsukata invites him to join Nomada and states that Kakegawa doesn't have a future even with the help of Cameya if they consider Haidito a burden, so he should join them instead. He says that both he and Kuhei will get better if they play together, but Haidito leaves after saying that he doesn't want to play anymore. He walks back while thinking about the time he used to play with Kuhei, while simultaneously, the Kakegawa team holds inter-squad practice matches where all the players notice how Kurikawa and Kazama aren't acting normally. One of the players named Hayashi mentions how Kurikawa was talking bad about Haidito, and Cameya has a few drinks with Hiramatsu where he tells him about the current situation of the Kakegawa team. He reveals that he already has a plan in mind and hints that he will let them know how they truly feel about each other like it's a romantic anime. He says that Kakegawa doesn't only have Haidito but also Kazama and Kurikawa, who he wants to teach a lot of things. Hiramatsu recalls that Kazama is the son of one of their juniors, and just then, a mysterious guy enters the restaurant who Cameya calls the plant. The next day, Kurikawa tries to smooth things over between him and Kazama, but he gets asked why he hasn't apologized to Haidito yet. He recalls how his childhood bullies used to tell him that saying sorry doesn't make things right, but Kazama assumes that Kurikawa is just being spoiled, that's why he isn't apologizing, so he leaves. He goes to clean the trophies in the club room where he meets Cameya, who talks about his dad, Isao Kazama, who was also a captain of the Kakegawa team a few years after Cameya's time. Kazama says that his dad's era was the beginning of the Kakegawa team's downfall, so Cameya questions if that's the reason why Kazama is so stuck on reviving the team to its past glory. He agrees, so he's asked if he plays soccer for his dad, but he replies that he loves soccer, that's why. Cameya is satisfied with the answer and says that his way of always going head front into everything is what makes him special, so he should keep doing that. A day before the semifinals, the weather gets gloomy as the players worry if they will be fine without Haidito, so Namioka tries to cheer them up with his silly jokes. Hayashi directly asks Kurikawa if he is the reason why Haidito quit the team, and he reveals to everyone how Kurikawa was talking bad about Haidito. They all start bickering, so Kazama apologizes to everyone in Kurikawa's place and requests them to let them handle things related to Haidito. They decide to let them fix things, and he takes Kurikawa with him to play a one-on-one match in the rain. They start going at it while Kazama takes out his frustration on Kurikawa, which makes him snap, so he steals the ball from Kazama and puts it into the net. Kazama tries to score again, but Kurikawa steals from him once more before scoring, which makes him realize that he has been holding back all this time. Kurikawa explains that he wants to be number 2 after Kazama, which makes him question Kurikawa why he's playing soccer. Kurikawa answers in frustration that he only plays so he can be with Kazama forever, as Kazama will need him. They start going at it again, but Kazama manages to score twice after stealing the ball, and he says that he doesn't need Kurikawa to help him. He says that he doesn't need him if he's only here to help him, and says that he wants to see him smile with him, so he should play for himself as he won't ever leave him. Kurikawa starts crying after falling down from his knees, and this is one of the saddest moments in anime history. 2 grown-ups crying in the rain over soccer. He says that he wants to apologize to Haidito, and Kishiya also arrives, so they ask him where he lives so they can apologize. Kurikawa goes to Haidito's house alone, but Haidito doesn't respond even though he hears the bell, so he leaves for the night. Kazama gets a call early in the morning from Kurikawa, who tells him that no one is at Haidito's house. Kazama tells him to come to the game and they'll win first cause they won't be able to face Haidito otherwise. Somewhere else, the sad loner is kicking the ball at the wall when a stranger appears out of nowhere and asks him if he likes soccer. Kurikawa doesn't find Haidito in his house, and Kazama urges him to find Haidito so that they can win. Meanwhile, Haidito kicks around the ball on his own, and a random guy asks him whether he has fun playing soccer. He then expertly kicks the ball at him, so Haidito kicks it back, and he then examines Haidito's leg like a creep. He tells him that he has got strong leg muscles and that he should try kicking the ball with his left leg instead. When Haidito turns around to follow his advice, he tells him that he should never turn his back on the ball, which makes Haidito recall how he stopped scoring goals when he turned his back on soccer in the past. At the stadium, Cameya guides the Kurikawa team about the Fujita East ace named Oka, who scored 10 points in the previous game. He tells them that Oka needs to be controlled if they want to win the game, and that for their game strategy Kazama will focus on the goals followed by a tight defense behind him. He tells the team to score goals in the first 5 minutes at all costs, and soon the team does a huddle where they yell out aloud. The other team also strategizes to mark the offensive players since Kurikawa's ace striker is missing, and they also think they can win easily since the team has only 10 players. The match begins, and soon Kurikawa's players steal the ball from Fujita East's players. The ball eventually gets passed to Kurikawa, who passes it to Sahara, but Sahara doesn't receive it properly since Kurikawa is used to making advance passes to Haidito instead. The random stranger pushes Haidito against a wall and tells him to tighten his muscle. On his advice, Haidito kicks the ball with his left leg, and the stranger then tells him to imagine that his teammate is passing the ball to him. Haidito imagines that he's in a match, so he kicks the ball again, and this time the ball moves straight ahead with a lot of power and even bounces back. Haidito smiles, and the random guy advises him to always believe in his teammates when they pass the ball to him. Suddenly Haidito recalls that he has to go play in the match, so he runs away, and the random dude advises him that Fujita East is a very tough team. At the stadium, Fujita East moves their defense line ahead, and soon Kurikawa's players steal the ball from the pass to pass it to Kurikawa. Once again, Kurikawa makes a wrong pass to Sahara, due to which they fail to score a goal. And as Fujita East's players retrieve the ball, their ace Oka scores the first goal. Kurikawa starts yapping about how it's his fault that Haidito isn't playing them, so Kazama tells him to shut his yapping mouth up. Haidito arrives at the stadium just in time to see Fujita East's players steal the ball from Kazama and make a round. They then score their second goal, and Haidito rushes downwards towards the team. Even Amagai starts losing his cool while Kurikawa rushes to Haidito's side when he spots him. For the 1000th time, he starts yapping about how he used to think that Haidito is taking Kazama away from him, and that he is in the way. He keeps going that he wanted to keep Kazama to himself only, and that he knows he is a pathetic coward, but he still wants to apologize to him for acting like this, and that he never wanted him to quit. Even Kazama hugs him while Haidito yells at him that he was also mad for letting his own trauma getting the best of him, and that he is also a pathetic loser who always thought about himself and abandoned his teammates when they needed him the most. Since they are both pathetic losers, they hug their differences out, and Kurikawa again apologizes to him. Haidito then requests Cameya to let him play soccer again, and all the others players also beg him to let him rejoin the game. Cameya shows them the resignation letter and comments that he always intended him to play with everyone else. The team rips apart the resignation letter and Cameya hands Haidito's jersey back to him. Cameya then tells the team its strategy for the second half while Fujita East also strategizes how to take on Haidito. The match resumes and from the get-go Fujita East's members mark Haidito so Sahara takes the ball towards the goal, and Kurikawa then scores the first goal with Kazama's help. For the next goal, Kazama tries to score again but the goalie blocks his attack, and as the clock keeps ticking, Kazama headbutts the ball above the keeper's head and scores another goal. Once again Kakegawa's players get the ball and Kazama tries to score again, but his shot gets blocked. The ball moves towards Haidito due to which Oka and Haidito headbutts to stop each other. Haidito then kicks the ball with his left leg instead but the ball hits the goal post accidentally. The ball comes to Kurikawa and he makes a very difficult pass to the front of the goal. Fujita East's members think that they will steal the ball easily but suddenly Haidito appears out of nowhere and kicks the ball which lands the team its third goal. The team wins the match and Haidito thanks Kurikawa for assisting him. They all hug each other and Cameya asks Haidito whether he met his old friend from the past who taught him to kick with his left leg. Afterwards Haidito comes across Kuhei in the hallway and he tells him not to lose his match since they will defeat his team to go to the nationals. Kuhei recalls the time when he told Haidito that he is leaving for England and how he faced discrimination in England but the only thing that kept him going was the thought of playing with Haidito again. He thinks about how he didn't give up and came back only to see that Haidito had already given up, which broke his heart. He takes out his frustration in the game where Nomada thrashes their opponent with 5 goals. Kuhei steals the ball and they make the 6th goal to utterly destroy their opponent, but Haidito notices that Kuhei never used to have that face after a goal. Later, they analyze Nomada's gameplay and Namioka reveals that Kuhei hasn't taken a single shot up till now, but is always involved in each goal. He fully controls where Matsukata and their attacker, Hattori, end up and they control the pace of the game from the start. They discuss how they need to shut down Kuhei somehow, but his movement is very unpredictable, and he guides all the players based on where he thinks the ball will go. Kurikawa explains that Kuhei draws a line on the field that leads to the goal by always being 2 steps ahead of where the ball goes. He correctly predicts where the ball will end up and goes to that place beforehand. Cameya fires everyone up by reminding them of how Kuhei did an 11-man dodge against them and how they aren't losers like before. They all get motivated not to let the past repeat again and Cameya tells them not to take their eyes off Kuhei. He explains that Nomada always scores early in the game to destroy their opponent's morale, and they use it to score even more in the second half. He tells them to mess up their plan by scoring first so the boys start practicing how they will attack at the start. Kurikawa, being the most fired up, tries his best to be able to correctly pass to Haidito so he can shoot it properly. He makes passes to Haidito over and over again until they finally succeed in making it happen. Haidito recalls how Kuhei looked when they scored against their opponent, so he ends up recalling how Kuhei used to get sad seeing the opponent goalkeeper sad. He ends up going to Nomada's field where he asks Kuhei if he still enjoys playing soccer as he doesn't play the way he used to before. Kuhei tells him that it's all his fault, that's why he threw away the soccer he played with Haidito. He says that Haidito has no idea how he felt when he came back, but he didn't give up and still managed to achieve everything, all by himself. Hattori starts getting pissed off that Haidito is ruining their mental game and Kazama arrives to take Haidito back. He explains that Kurikawa guessed that Haidito might be at Nomada because of how deeply he was in thought all day, that's why they came to check. Kurikawa asks Haidito what Kuhei meant before, so Haidito replies that he needs to win to get back the soccer he had with Kuhei. With the final tomorrow, everyone is busy with their own preparations. Haidito texts his dad to come, but his dad says that he will come if they reach the nationals. Kazama recalls Cameya's words about not playing for the past, so he goes to talk to his dad while Kurikawa thinks about how he has moved on from the past. The next day, the match is about to start, so Cameya gives a speech about how everyone had evolved from being losers now and he is proud of himself for training them so well. They all laugh at how he is bragging about himself and they step onto the field. He tells them about the strategy that only Sonoda will stay back at the start and the rest will attack aggressively. Haidito states that they will beat Kuhei and head to the finals, but Kuhei says that it's impossible. The whistle blows and the Kakegawa team rushes forward while the opponent thinks that they'll pass like they always do. Kazama passes the ball to Kurikawa and Kuhei starts moving, which makes Haidito rush forward all alone. The ball goes out of bounds and they all scold Haidito for not looking at the whole field. Cameya reminds Haidito of what his soccer is and Haidito gets his head back into the game. He directs Kurikawa and Kazama to move forward alone while he is being marked, so the opponents run toward Kurikawa thinking that he will shoot, but he does a long pass to Haidito instead, who perfectly shoots it in. They get the first goal as planned and start pressuring Kuhei, which allows Sonoda to deflect the ball from the other players. They continue to hold Nomada back long enough and get a chance at another counter. Kurikawa gets the ball and passes it to Haidito, but Kuhei predicts it beforehand, so he arrives in time to block the shot. Nomada starts counter-attacking and Haidito tries to tackle Kuhei before he can pass to anyone else, but contrary to everyone's expectations, Kuhei takes the shot himself and scores a goal. He tells Haidito not to underestimate him, and Matsukata asks him why he decided to shoot himself, which he never does, so he explains that he wants to crush Kurikawa himself. A typical sweet boy turned into a villain story in progress right now. Amagai apologizes to everyone for letting their efforts to gain the lead go to waste, but Haidito points out that they just need to get more goals. The game resumes and Nomada locks Haidito up, which prevents him from seeing the field properly, so he is unable to give commands. Kuhei steals the ball from Kazama, but Kurikawa manages to defend even though Haidito is fully detached from the whole game. Kuhei easily dribbles past Haidito and goes towards the goal, where he dribbles around the defenders before tapping it into the goal. Haidito reminds him that he never used to make that face at his opponents after scoring, and Kuhei replies that he must have been playing very boring soccer before. They start attacking again and Haidito is still unable to move, but Kurikawa manages to break past their defense. Kuhei appears before him, so he passes to Haidito, but he notices that the pass is different from before. He runs to block Haidito from shooting with his left, so he shoulders him at the last moment, which pushes him slightly off balance, allowing Nomada's goalie to defend against it. The halftime whistle blows and Haidito starts thinking about how he isn't scoring again, so he will go back to being how he used to be before, but the rest of the boys cheer him on. He thinks about how Kuhei told him that it was his fault, and he decides to take Kuhei on himself. He tells everyone to go for the goal while he locks Kuhei, and Cameya remind everyone of the most important thing: to get as close to the goal as possible. The second half begins and they rush towards the goal while Haidito tries to block Kuhei, but he runs past him easily. He steals the ball from them and shoots toward the Kurikawa goal, but Haidito manages to head it away. However, Hattori shoots it again, but Amagai manages to deflect, and that ball is shot by another Nomada player. But Amagai manages to save the day like always. Haidito tells Kuhei that soccer isn't a game that's played alone, and he starts screaming in frustration, but Matsukata tells him the same thing. Haidito uselessly attempts to stop Kuhei again, but to no one's surprise, Kuhei manages to shake him off. Kurikawa rushes towards the goal and Haidito runs after him while thinking about how closed himself from the world, but now he is back on the pitch with the best comrades he could have ever asked for. Kurikawa passes to him, but he doesn't hesitate to take the shot even though Kuhei is right next to him. Kazama comes between them, which prevents Kuhei from doing anything, and Haidito shoots an absolute banger with his left leg that the goalie deflects, but the ball spins back into the goal. Cameya is shocked that Haidito managed to perfect the legendary left, and the scores get tied again. Kuhei thinks about how Haidito trusts his teammates so much that he doesn't even hesitate to shoot, knowing that Kazama will save him. Nomada begins attacking aggressively and Kuhei rushes to the goal, but he passes the ball instead of shooting it himself. Matsukata kicks the ball and Amagai manages to deflect it, but Matsukata takes a header which puts the ball into the net. The Kurikawa team doesn't give up even though there is only 1 minute left in the game, and they push towards the goal. Kuhei tries to prevent Kurikawa from passing, but Kurikawa passes backwards to Haidito, who takes a powerful shot that no one has enough time to react to, but it gets deflected into the air after hitting the goalkeeper. The ball goes out of bounds and Kurikawa loses the match, but the crowd cheers for them while they cry their hearts out. Kuhei also starts crying while hugging Haidito because they lost. Haidito gets happy that the old Kuhei is back, and after a while, Sahara and Sonoda cry their hearts out in the locker room as this was their last chance at going to the Nationals. The team doesn't lose their morale as they vow to reach the National Stadium next year, and Cameya tells them to come to practice again starting tomorrow. They go back to their normal routines and Haidito enjoys the company of his 2 new friends. Cameya goes to visit the grave of Kubo and talks about how he found a very incredible player who has very interesting people around him. Haidito and Kuhei go back to being besties, and Kuhei even appears in his bed wearing only a bottom, which tells a lot already. They send their seniors off and Haidito talks about how they're below 11 players again, but they'll hopefully get more players in the next year. He suddenly talks about how he wants to play soccer forever, so they rush towards the field and Kuhei joins them too. That's it for today, my fellow men of culture. Like and subscribe the channel for more plot-filled recaps.